show, eh? We must.
All right, welcome everybody to another Ion Live. I am happy as a clam that the person right over there is Jay Siemens for this episode. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you. It's been a while since we've sat down and talked fishing.
What did you think about the schnazzy intro? If me drilling holes in sweatpants doesn't get people excited for ice fishing, I don't know what will, right?
That was good. I wasn't expecting the intro, and boom, it was there. It was good.
Yeah. It was kind of crushing. Yes. Well, here we are. We've got a couple people online. It's only going to get bigger. If you don't know who Jay Siemens is, you've been sleeping under a rock. You don't go on YouTube ever. Probably not social media either. And you're definitely not from Canada, because Jay is one of the North Country's treasures. And it's been a while since we hung out. We were just talking about it, Jay. It was 3 days prior to the world shutting down to COVID. We were at the Winnipeg Boat Show. It was a boat show, right?
Yeah, it was the Midwest Canada, the Winnipeg Boat Show. And that was that the first time we've met? I think we must have.
I think in person. Yeah, we met online and we've actually worked together on a lot of different teams, just never crossed paths in person. But that was the 39 hours debut, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the season 2. Was it debut or finale? I
might have been finale.
Something around the end of season 2 of 39 hours. So that was a couple of years ago already. But I remember finally meeting you. I'd seen your name in many in fisherman articles over the years, and it was due. And we must have been close to crossing paths at the St. Paul Ice Show this winter. You must have been there. I must have just missed you. I was only there for the Saturday.
Chasing each other around the show, but never being in the same A and B spot at the same time. No, yeah. I was all over the place. I'm working for Onyx Fish now, so I was trying to chat up a bunch of people about the app, and you were doing appearances at a couple different booths, right?
Yeah, I made a couple rounds. It was overdue making it down to the show, so I spent a little bit of HE Innovations, a little bit of the Eskimo booth, popped by the Ion stuff, and just had a chance to see what was going on, see what all the buzz was about. And it's like the Winnipeg Ice Show is amazing. I love it. Like that's my core there. But the St. Paul show, I didn't even make it to the second floor. It was overwhelming. Yeah, it was good.
Well, that Winnipeg show in 2020 was interesting to me because there was a lot of interest in boats, obviously being a boat show, but one of you guys had a seminar, and then that kind of led right into either the finale or whatever video showing of 39 hours. And that was as big or bigger a buzz in the show than any of the boat deals or any of the stuff we were schlepping. So I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. I'm going to meet.
Well, I don't know. Like sometimes with those shows like that, there's you got your crew of your Lund people and Illumicraft people or whatever at an ice show too, whatever it might be. Yeah. But to have that event that's kind of a community thing, it's like, it doesn't matter what brand you're with. You can come and attend this and be part of it. Like, I love those things, right? Those are the things where, I just know when the fly fishing film tour comes through town, it's like, that's something I want to be at, because it's just like a cool community type event. So I don't know, that was fun. Those events, like the 39 hours one in particular, and we actually did one for season 2 of the Outpost for kicking it off. We did a premiere showing at the Winnipeg show this year, and it's just like, it's obviously it's a video that my team produced and all that, but it's just a good excuse to get a bunch of fishermen together. That's the most important part. I don't care if it's a video I'm making or if you're making or whoever, but it's just that part of it that makes it fun. And I like those things, right?
I do too. Yeah. Too often we get caught up on our teams and the people we work for, you team blue or red or whatever. And in the end, we're just all a big group of anglers that are looking for an edge, right? Looking for a little tip or a trick. But real quick story, coming out of the Winnipeg Ice Show, Tony Roach and I caravan together. So he was ahead of me. I was behind him. He said, I know this little great border crossing. Mind you, the world is shutting down. On the way into Canada, they're asking us if we've been to Italy recently, if we've been to Wuhan province recently. Obviously not. And Tony's like, I think I know this little out of the way place we can cross the border. I'm like, okay, this will be good. So we snaked down through the woods on a crossing I'd never been to. And it was literally just a little hut with a single swing arm gate and one guy operating it. And Tony pulls up ahead of me and they start talking and they don't stop talking. And it's like they're 20, 25 minutes into this conversation. I'm like, this is not going well. Yeah. Like, are we going to get turned around? Do we need to make calls? What's going to happen? All of a sudden, Tony goes through. The guy opens up the gate and he drops it right in front of me. And he just looks at me and he goes, are you with Tony? And I said, yeah. He goes, all right. Yeah, he told me about you. Go on. The guy didn't even look at my ID, I don't think. Maybe I had it out and he just quickly glanced at it. But I called Roach after we got like 10 minutes outside. I got cell service again. And I'm like, what was that all about? He goes, the guy was just asking me all kinds of information on like Winnipeg. And we were just bullshit.
Oh, funny. The whole time. Man, it's hit or miss with some of those small crossings because I grew up right on one of those small crossings just west of the, most people come to Lake Winnipeg, they'll cross at the Emerson-Pembina crossing there.
Yeah.
The one just west is Gretna and Nitchie. And I lived right on that border town. And, sometimes you cross and it's amazing and they're chatting, fishing. And I played hockey with the guy's son and whatever. And it's great. And then the next time it's like, there's no lineup and you're the only person. And this guy's got hours to kill. He's like, I'm going to tear apart your vehicle and look at everything. Right. And so it's so hit or miss with those. Like I've just crossed the border so many times. It's like, you just never know what you're going to get. I feel like it's one of those major crossings and it's like, they have to keep people moving through, but sometimes you get the good and the bad of those crossings, but
that's great stuff. Well, thank you for indulging my short trip down memory lane. We'll go back again, at least a few times before the end of the segment, but again, welcome to all the viewers that are here for Ion Live with Jay Siemens. Just a reminder, the format's a really open one. If you guys have any comments, any questions for Jay, just about anything's valid, go ahead and ask those comments. I'll make sure to highlight them and ask Jay different questions as we kind of go throughout the night. I know
I'll try to have some comments here too. I'll try to look at them too so I can see if there's any that pop up that.
Sweet. Yep. And we can address them as we need to. But Jay, I wanted to go back to, we're in ice season right now. We're talking a little bit of ice. That's obviously what's interesting to most folks right now. I don't know much about your ice fishing history or your past. Like most people, I've kind of chased you around the internet over the years and seen everything from Canadian fly fishing crazy trips to stuff with Clayton Schick down in the Keys and everything in between. But as far as like your ice fishing background, did you grow up doing it? Is it more of a recent thing for you?
I'm trying to think to some of the first couple ice fishing memories. Basically, open water fishing was a thing probably when I was, 12, 13, kind of really got the fishing bug. I was fishing with my grandpa. My dad would fish when we did our family trip, but it was always based around my grandpa taking the boat and doing that.
Nice.
The ice fishing thing, there was a pond in my backyard, hometown of Altona, and they had a fishing derby on that pond. And they had stocked it with trout and all the trout died right away. And somebody ended up catching a carp in there. And so this pond had carp in it, which wasn't not a species people, highly target through the ice. Right. But I made it my mission to figure out how to catch carp through the ice. So when I was like 14, 15 was when I started getting the ice fishing bug. And I remember figuring out how to catch the carp through the ice, tiny little tungsten jigs covered in bread. And these fish would be suspended in the water column and you would just hover in front of their face and eventually you'd catch a carp. But I remember this pond in Altona, they would clear it for skating. So it's like this big kidney shaped lake and they would clear like 90% of it with a tractor and flood it and stuff for it was a nice place to skate. And I would drill holes right in the middle of it. Like just right. And I remember getting kicked off a couple times.
You were not a popular man there.
Yeah. And I didn't always drill right in the middle. Sometimes it would be like, there would be a berm and I would drill on the snow and I'd catch fish outside of the rink sometimes, but they would do it over the good part. But that was kind of the start. But I would say like my first couple of core memories was Aaron Weeb had a farm pond in his backyard, just outside of Winnipeg. And also it was near the Red River. So all sorts of fish flooded in there. There's, a catfish and goldeye and lots of rock bass. And I think over the years he stocked rainbows and Arctic char and that sort of stuff in there.
Wow.
So when I was kind of getting into ice fishing, it was, there wasn't Facebook, maybe there's MySpace kind of at that time, but it was basically fishing message boards, right? There's a couple There's one in the States I used to be part of. It was called Lake State Fishing, was one of them too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, man. That's speaking my language back then.
Yeah, so I was a big nerd there. I was deep into that. But there's a couple in Manitoba, and there's this guy named Aaron Wiebe who was just electric on the forum. He'd be all over the place. He had these crazy trips he'd be going on. And I idolized him and his buddy Chris going on these trips and catching these big fish and just being wild about it. But anyways, Aaron put a shout out the one year for an ice fishing derby on his pond. And I was like 13 or 14 at the time, maybe a bit older, but I didn't have my drivers. And I told my dad, I'm like, hey, this guy's having a derby on his farm pond. Let's go. So that was like an early ice fishing memories. My dad driving me out to Aaron Wiebe's pond. This was my first time meeting Aaron. And there's probably 30 people on this pond that you could have casted across. The memories on that pond, like, oh man, there's one guy that came in his like beach attire in his shorts, in his swim trunks. Wow. And he had this inflatable palm tree, and he brought a bowling ball along and started bowling across the ice. So he's got a full bowling ball, and people have flashers that are just getting like ping ponged off. It was just like, the whole thing was just comical, and people catching fish and just all that. So those are like early ice fishing memories, was these derbies on Aaron's pond. And that's kind of when I got my first flasher. And then, I convinced Aaron to take me ice fishing because he had his drivers. And then after that, I was trip to trip. And, those were early memories. But I remember like getting into situations, when I did just get my drivers, getting into situations, borrowing my parents' minivan and getting sent off and going to these places I had no idea where I was, and getting their van stuck and needing to get towed out. And man, on the topic of augers, I can remember this was just an old, I think it was like a Barracuda, one of the old Eskimo gas ones, like 40 pounds, right? This thing was big. And I remember loading into the back of my parents' minivan, and I had lost the auger cover, which is just like, why am I loading into their van without an auger cover? And I remember losing balance and the auger going right into their ceiling, and it's cloth, right, in a minivan, and just a huge gash of the auger blade right into the ceiling of their minivan. And I'm just like, looking back on that, I can't imagine if my kid would do that. Like, you did what? You didn't have an auger cover and you cut a hole into the ceiling of our minivan?
Well, I'm afraid to let you in on this secret, Jay, but my kids are 16 and 19, and it's not a if it will happen, it's a when. Oh, yeah. And we just hope that if it's blood, the blood is kept to a minimum, and everybody maintains all of their limbs, and then mom won't get as mad.
Do you have any good gear stories with your kids? Have they wrecked anything good?
They were, they wreck everything. They're boys, so that's just kind of the deal, right? They're just hard on everything, but they had a special proclivity to finding the hole in the ice with their feet. And they could have just fallen in literally 30 seconds before, and they'd find it again. And of course, back then, not a lot of people drilled holes, but I did. I always drilled a pile of holes. Well, I just made it hard on myself in that regard. But
6-inch holes when you were fishing with them, or were you
trying to? Yeah. Kids and ice holes scares the daylights out of anybody that's a father or a mother. So yeah, I did my best to try and keep them still, but that was the hardest part. It's like kids, boys especially, they don't want to be still on the ice. They want to run around, throw footballs, and set tip-ups, and they played tackle tip-up just like I did as a kid, right? As first man to the tip-up flag wins, no holds barred. So that nobody got hurt too bad, and tears when they happened were pretty infrequent. So I feel pretty lucky, but
stepped in a couple holes,
you'll have your work cut out for you. It's a blast, though. It's so good. It's so good.
That's fun.
So tell me this: we got a bunch of questions coming up. Darren Beatty, Landscape and Excavation. We're in Southwest Manitoba. Any tips for targeting walleyes in small lakes specifically? Obviously, Manitoba's got some great big fisheries, but for small lakes and targeting walleyes, I suppose the first question is how to find out if there's walleyes in those small lakes, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of resources and more resources popping up. I know you're talking about onyx fish in the States. I haven't actually researched it because I don't fish in the States that much, but I mean, I think that technology or that app is, I'm sure eventually Canada's probably on their radar, but like
for sure
in Ontario, there's one called Fish Online, which is really good. There's another one in Manitoba. Well, there's it's called I don't even know what it's called. ArcGIS is the website, but it's this long domain. But if you search like Manitoba stocking and Manitoba fisheries, it'll show up. And basically it shows any stocking reports. You click on a lake, it'll show the species. Another great resource is the Master Angler book. I know in Minnesota too, when I've done some fishing down there, there's amazing access to all the creel surveys too. So if you can find access to the creel surveys, like, I mean, my before I ever visit a lake, the research starts online, and it's, first I go to YouTube and see, maybe there's been some videos done there, that's nice to have local. Hey, we're catching the walleye shallow, we're catching them deep. There's big ones, small ones, whatever it might be. But then also just looking for any sort of scientific data, if there is some studies that have been done there. The internet has just cut out so much research time in the past, because before it's like, maybe you find something on a forum, or maybe you talk to a friend of a friend that's been there. I mean, I also do like the lakes where there's nothing, there's no info. I'm not saying there has to be info on a lake for it to be good, because some of the best lakes are where there's no info. But obviously if you have, 1 or 2 days to fish a month, you want to make sure you're going to a lake where there's fish, right? You might not want to be rolling the dice that much. As far as smaller lakes for walleye, I don't really fish that many smaller lakes for walleye, but in my, history of fishing smaller lakes, I would say just fishing shallow mud has done good for me. Like, I'm trying to think about some of the back lakes here. A lot of the back lakes here are more, stained water, tea-stained water, and just in general, the fish a little shallower too.
Sure.
So I'm just trying to think of the last couple of videos I've done on those lakes, and they're pushing shallow. I don't know. You probably got more experience fishing small walleye lakes, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, not in that part of the world as much, but yeah, when you said tea-stained water, shallow, and you said mud, that really resonated with me. A lot of those fish are actually eating mayfly larvae in the mud as much as they're looking for minnows. So I think of those types of lakes as a place to catch a fair amount of walleyes, but not always big walleyes. I know there's so many exceptions to that rule, obviously, but kind of an interesting topic, muddy, small water walleyes. But TJ Erickson also chimed in, and TJ asked, Jay, any big trips happening this winter?
Well, we are filming season 3 of the Outpost, a little competition series on YouTube. So that's going to be coming up fairly soon in northern Manitoba.
Tell us about the Outpost. Give some folks that maybe don't know about it. Just give us a quick backdrop of what that looks like.
Quick background. I mean, the last, bigger competition we've done a couple of competitions on YouTube, like myself and buddies and stuff. But obviously, if people have heard of competitions, we were talking about 39 hours recently. That was the one that kind of got the buzz going for some competitions in Central Canada. And that was a multi-species type thing that Aaron Wiebe on Cut Angling did. But what I wanted to do with the Outpost was basically, instead of having everybody spread apart, was bring everybody together at the same location. And that's kind of what we did. We did one season in northern Manitoba, an open water season, then one ice fishing season at my outpost on Lake of the Woods, Uncle Mark's Outpost. And it was just a different vibe. It was like, 3 teams, 2 anglers per team, and we're all going out our separate ways, but coming back at the end of the day and sharing the stories of our day. And it's competitive, but we're all buddies. Like, it's important. Sure. When I choose that crew of people, I'm not choosing the people who I think are the ultimate best fishermen. No offense to those guys. All of them are better fishermen than me. I'm not choosing the people that have the biggest social media following, the most Instagram followers, because that doesn't matter either. I just wanted to pick people that I love to spend time with, that are fishy people in general, and that I know are just going to be easygoing and have a good time and be good on camera and all that stuff. Because at the end of the day, there's, a million people that can catch fish, but I want to be with people that I know and I love. And, I want to look back on these videos and be like, wow, that's a good memory. Regardless if I got third or got first. Somebody was making a comment about, it's like, man, you should, why do you keep doing these competitions? You've lost 2 of them in a row now. And I'm just like, I don't care if I win or lose. Of course I want to win, right? I'm trying as hard as I can.
Right.
But also it's a group of buddies, and it is what it is. We try to add an aspect at the end that the winning team gets to give $5,000 to a charity of their choice. So it lights a little bit of a fire for people. But at the end of the day, it's just like, we're trying to create some memories and try to create a video that somebody else would want to watch. Whenever I make a video, I'm thinking of what is something that I would want to watch if I was on YouTube watching videos, right? So it's just like, those are the videos I want to watch. So
I think that's a super healthy perspective. My problem with competitions is that it can bring out the worst in people at times. And what ends up happening is the whole end game becomes contrary to the original version of what you had in mind to begin with. And so you don't go into it with the right attitude where it's like, no, this isn't for blood. This is not for all the chips. This is like just a friendly wager or a way just to make it a little more interesting for viewers or ourselves, just to kind of challenge ourselves a little bit. But man, I like fishing against the fish. It's me against me versus the fish, right? Like it's always a competition to do better. But I appreciate that perspective.
It's a very fine line, because it's just like with these competitions, it's like we're very open with information and just being like, hey guys, if it's an area like some of the Lake of the Woods, when I'm like, hey, this is probably what we're gonna do, where we're gonna go and whatever. But it's just it's a fine line of, you want to have your little competitive edge, but you also just want to make sure everybody does good, right?
Yeah,
it's not like we're being so hush hush and it's like, oh, so it's towing that line. And then, like you said, you don't want it to get too competitive either. So that's the big shoot for this winter. We're going into it with no pre-fish, so it'll be interesting. Like it's up north. So the thing about pre-fishing for ice fishing too is it feels like, if we're fishing for big lake trout, you pop off that 42-inch lake trout and then the competition starts, and then it's like, so you're struggling to catch a laker, and it's like, oh man, I wish I would have been filming, 2 days ago, right?
For sure.
So I mean, I'm not pre-fishing. I think one of the teams might be going up a little earlier to film some other stuff, but it'll be good. I mean, I'm familiar with the area, and I don't want to give away too much, but it's going to be fun. That'll be the big one. That's always a big production, because we're dealing with 3 camera guys, and you're dealing with, however many snow machines, 6, 7, 8 snow machines. So it's like, you got to think, you roll the dice. If there's 8 snow machines, one of them's probably having a breakdown, or something's going to happen, right? Or somebody's going to get stuck somewhere.
Right.
So, all that, and then the gear, and there's just a lot of angles to those competitions, but I love doing them, and it seems like people like watching them. So I'm going to keep.
For sure they do. Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think the internet has spoken in favor. But I had another question for you. I'll just jump in on this one.
Yeah.
This is Ion Live, and I'm curious personally, because I joined the Ion team just a couple of years ago. I think you were already on at that point, and I'm just curious what brought you to Ion in the first place. Was it a specific auger? Was it like you just tried it and this is better than what I've got? Was there any strong reason that you kind of gravitated that direction?
I mean, it was right around the time when the G2 released, and I got my hands on a G2, and a buddy was like, yeah, try it out. Like, no pressure, but let me know what you think.
Yep.
And I tried it, and I did, I'd done a review video of a competitor's auger. That's what I've done a lot of in the past, is I've drilled 100 holes, and I've tested in real life situations. I've done that with electronics. I've tested side by side, and the G2 at that time was phenomenal. And it's like, how can things get better? And that's when I was like, that was probably around the time we met, is when I started cutting with the G2. And then
I agree.
And then when the Alpha came out, it's like, this thing is just, it feels industrial. It feels like a tool in the best way. Right. And I love it. It's I don't know. It's funny. It's funny hearing gas augers on the lake now. It's like taking a step back in history. And I know there's still a couple kicking around, but you don't even expect to hear them anymore. It's crazy. These last couple years. And it's just like, I think about the electric augers, they don't fail you, right?
No, right, right. Yeah. And that says a lot coming from a guy that's drilling in the thickest ice, or some of the thickest ice in North America at times. I mean, I'll be honest, like, there have been some seasons we've had in Minnesota where I don't even get to an extension, or I certainly didn't last year. The year before I did, but it was only because of snow. It wasn't because we were drilling loads of ice. And so I think it's cool that you put it to the test in some of the harsher environments that you can throw at it. And to your point, it's industrial, no doubt.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, I put the video out. I don't know if it was last winter or the winter before. I think it was last winter I released it, but I went up to Nunavut, to Iqaluit.
Yeah.
In like way in the north there. And the thumbnail of the picture is me with 2 or 3 auger extensions. I don't know if they're 12 or 18-inch extensions. I don't know if I can find the picture of it, but like, it was just, it was insane. It was the most, and it was like this sea ice too. So it was like very tough to get through.
That's wild.
If I can share the picture, but that was the craziest experience. And it was funny talking to talking to the guides there in Nunavut, and they were just showing all the auger blades that they destroyed and stuff. I mean, here you can see,
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
Sorry, the flightings and everything. Like they just had a graveyard of augers there, and there you can see that's quite the deal. Like we had to stand on the edge of the snowmobile to
start it,
and to pop it out, and it was just like, whoa, this is a different level of ice. And sometimes, you know, when you get that water seeping through the ice too, and that water will suction the auger too. It's like if you don't have a powerful auger, you're not gonna pop that up.
And that was always my first concern with electric augers way back in the day, because I'd used some prototypes from other manufacturers that use just old 12-volt gel cell motorcycle batteries, and yeah, they left a little bit to be desired. They drill, but they had their issues, and so, you know, at least with gas, it would never fail you to punch through. If you got it started, you kept it gassed up, took care of the carburetor and all that junk, you'd get through. But I really, once they came to the G2 and then especially the Alpha, I just can't think of a reason I don't know. I don't think anybody will use anything but electric.
Yeah.
Until rocket fuel becomes the new thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if this, I mean, talking about how sturdy, like the G2 is, it's still got, you know, some plastic on the handles. I never had issues breaking any of that.
Yep.
It was funny so often how many times I've heard when I would show someone the Alpha, they're like, oh, that composite flighting, that must break. And I'm like, dude, I've put it through everything. I've never seen it break. And then I also, when I had the chance to go to the Ion HQ in Cumberland there, and I saw the test they do, it gave me that much more you know, faith in the product. But another story was, this was last winter, and I got a new snowmobile, and it has a Ski-Doo has the auger rack on the side of it.
Yeah.
And I had my Alpha on the side, and probably on 2 occasions I was by myself, just being a dummy on my snowmobile, like on some portages that weren't even portages, whatever you want to call them. And I kind of like rolled the snowmobile on, not quite onto me, but it would have rolled onto me, and it landed on the auger rack on the side.
Ooh, yeah.
This is like an 800-pound snowmobile, right? And it landed with all of its weight getting held up by the auger and the auger rack. And like, I hop off the sled and I'm like taking pictures of it because it's such a ridiculous scene. And eventually I'm able to like cantilever it back over and get it flat. And I like take the auger out, and like nothing's broken. The handle is a tiny bit bent, but that was 800 or 900 pounds on it. And I'm still using that auger. It's still the one I'm using this season.
That's
with
awesome.
a slight bend on the handle, and I was able to bend it back. But it's just like, it handled that, and it kept the snowmobile from rolling on top of me. Like I said, I was being a dummy, just driving through a creek I shouldn't have, sort of thing, and crawling the side of a hill. But yeah, that's happened a couple times. It's like, whoa, this kind of saved me. Props to the auger rack too on the snowmobile. But yeah, it was crazy. So if you see me with the one handle that's a little bit bent, that don't want to say it saved my life, but it stopped the snowmobile rolling on top of me. So
yeah, I was actually in Wisconsin, and I was chatting with a guy on a 4-wheeler that just pulled up, and he whipped around the side of my wheeler, and I had my auger on the other side laying on the ice, and he hit my flighting, and he put a tire over it, and I thought, oh, this is not good, you know. Yeah. He stopped and apologized, and I pulled it out from under his wheeler, and I looked, and you know, it was a really cold day, and it just kind of stayed that way for a little bit, but eventually it went back to its original shape, and it's like nothing ever happened. And I thought, boy, these things, the way they build them now, you just don't think there'll be another. I wonder what the next iteration will be. That's where my mind goes. What can you innovate new and different? How much wilder can we really get to make big strides? I'm sure we can make lots of little ones.
Yeah.
What's the
I always use the comparison with when I started using drones for photography, and just like the initial first drone I got was my life was changed for videography. And that's the same way with, I feel like, the first electric augers. And then those first couple iterations, it gets so good. And now it's like minor changes, but still, it's still better. But I think it's going to be that same thing of the price point is going to keep dropping, and you're going to get, you know, better bang for your buck, because, you know, even, you know, if you can find a G2 kicking around on clearance or something, it's still an amazing auger. Right. And like the Alpha, I feel like I'm just wondering what the lifespan would be on one of those. Like, they haven't been around enough to know if someone's going to have one for 25 years, right? Like, it's,
well, the cool part is, I mean, the lithium ion battery technology, I mean, they're saying a decade all day with those, and batteries are replaceable. So you just start to think of the other things that can go wrong. And especially with that steel cage on the handles that kind of build out that you can drop it. I don't advise it, but unlike some of the augers of old that were polymer handles, where if they dropped from a standing position, you'd crack the handles or they'd break off. That just isn't going to be the case. So yeah, I'm interested to see what comes next anyway. But hey, let's move it along. Nick Linder chases me around the internet, and whenever he is on his live on the lake podcast type deals, I harass him. So this is his kind of.
Nick does some incredible work, and I would say he's leading this scene is just the live streaming on the ice.
Yeah,
like the stuff that he's doing. I'm not saying it's an excuse, but like we don't have cell service like that here. Or maybe he brings Starlink when he's fishing. I don't know. A buddy was showing me portable Starlink the other day, and I'm like, man, you could do some stuff with that. But Nick's live streaming is phenomenal. And just the dedication it takes.
It's a cool format, and Nick's a friendly guy and a great angler. So you get this interesting interaction of him being so chill out on the ice, and then they're catching fish. And it's hard to it's like the aquarium at Cabela's or some damn thing. Like you just can't turn away. They just when something cool stops happening, a new fish swims in, right?
Yeah, it's impressive.
But don't dodge the question. Come on,
man. I wouldn't live stream with Taro. I would be very nervous to live stream with Taro because that guy, he says a lot of stuff.
What could happen? We wouldn't know.
Exactly.
It'd be scary.
Man, what have I gleaned from the legendary Taro? Man, I've learned a lot. Just like something that I've maybe mentioned this before that people don't realize is Taro Murata has a degree in psychology.
Oh, wow.
That's what he went to school for. So when you see this crazy man on film, he's always thinking one step ahead, and he can turn it on and off. And that's really impressive. And he has one of those minds that's always thinking about, like, he doesn't close his mind on something. It's always, there's multiple ways to do stuff. There's a different way to get on a bite. There's a different lure. I've heard of these personalities in fishing, right? And Taro is one of them. And yeah, he's just an experience to fish with. He's what else have I gleaned? I've gleaned patience. I think that's helped me raising a 2-year-old now is fishing with Taro. I love Taro. It's just so, everyone needs to spend some time with Taro. I would say like 2 to 3 days tops. That's kind of my limit. So when you watch the Outpost competition, you'll see by day 3, that's where my patience is really like done with Taro, and you'll see me start snapping on him.
That's awesome.
Some of the times I snap on them, they don't make they end on the cutting room floor. They don't make it to the final episode. But, I love Taro, but he's a brother too, right? So at a certain point, it's just like, okay, Taro, it's time to lock in and get focused.
That's funny. It's not that he's mad. It's mad genius. I like the psychology degree angle.
Yeah, it's wild. The phrase that I kept dropping in season 2 of the Outpost with him was urgency. I'm like, Taro, we need urgency. Because he would just be kind of like lollygagging, looking around. I'm like, this is a competition at the end of the day. And oh yeah, I love him. I'm excited to see him. I'm fishing with him again for season 3 of the Outpost. So it's and he doesn't ice fish a ton. So it's interesting seeing him. He's one of those guys that can be in a boat, probably 250 days of the year.
Wow.
So to see him on the ice is always a spectacle. And he comes, I gifted him an ice suit last year. So he's got the ice suit. That's all. I said, Taro, just bring the suit and some warm boots. I got the rest. Just show up, literally. So I even got his plane ticket for him from Toronto. So he's going to get picked up from the airport, and he'll be full guest mode for 5 days. So.
That's awesome. Andy Pedersen checks in and says, what's up, dudes? How you doing, Andy? It's been a while. I didn't see you at the ice show this year. I know you were there. I missed Jay Siemens and Andy, apparently. My apologies.
Next time.
Mike Klatt asks, any tips or tricks for picking a backcountry ice? I think he means backcountry lake. We chatted about that a little bit in regards to southwestern Manitoba lakes. You, again, to summarize, you do a lot of internet research, right?
A lot of internet research. And then, some of these backcountry lakes too, depending on what you're fishing for, if they're connected to a fishy lake, that obviously is just an easy giveaway. There's a lot of lakes, Lake of the Woods, for example. There's lots of lakes that are connected by creeks that you might be able to get your boat through in summer, maybe not. But like if it's connected to a fishy body of water, you can assume these smaller lakes will have it too. Yeah, tips or tricks. I mean, yeah, it's doing that research online and rolling the dice at the end of the day too. I mean,
Trial and error, right?
That's it. And if you are trying to check some back lakes too, it's try to hit multiple in a day rather than committing, 3 days to one lake, right? Because sometimes, especially now with front-facing sonar, you'll know if there's something there. Like they can't completely disappear anymore. So
yeah, just this past week, I fished. I tried to go to some recent farm ponds, some ones that had been on my radar. I fished them as kids, and they were awesome. They were incredible. One of them, my personal best crappie, came out of 16.25 inches.
wow.
But I went back and there was no ice on it. There was flow through, and it was unbelievable. There's water, there's springs. The other one we tried has been silted in. It's 4.5 feet deep. So to your point, you got to swing and miss sometimes to be able to swing and finally hit and connect. Right? Hero Fishing says, love the game of inches in the Outpost, and need more Sam fly fishing adventures.
I know Sam's full-time mom mode right now, so she's I want to get her fly fishing again. Like our trip to the Yukon, I think was probably her main fly fishing trip. So it's like we need to do that again. She really enjoyed that trip. So it's tough now with a young family. Things have changed, and I'm so incredibly grateful for her, staying at home and holding down the fort when I am gone. That's a full-time job in itself. Without that, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. But I do want to get her fishing. We'll just have to wait till baby number 2 comes and everything's stabilized, and
makes sense. Nope, I hear you there for sure. Troy Peterson, chasing me from podcast to podcast. I was just on the Crappie Junction podcast. We were talking Onyx fish. It is not ready yet for all states, but available in Minnesota, Wisconsin. If it's the same Troy Peterson that I think it is, from down in that La Crosse and Alaska area, it is fully functional and ready to rip for Wisconsin. Android users, I'm sorry, we're working on it. It's not quite ready yet, but web is available to everybody, whether you're on your mobile phone or looking around on the app. You can use it there too. So that's nice. That's the update. Nick Jenkins, start-stop with batteries on the Gen 1 and now the Alpha. I have experienced this very, very rarely, and in both cases, 2 cases, it was the battery that has actually had an issue. And so I don't know, Jay, have you, I know you've used that auger in extremely cold temperatures. Give us your experience and what you've encountered there. Keeping batteries warm, do you do it? How do you do it? Have you experienced the start-stop thing at all?
I mean, I can think of 2 specific experiences where I've had the augers not want to cut. 2 that stick out of my mind. One was a meat eater shoot in Devil's Lake, and the whole shoot, everything was breaking, things were falling apart, and it was minus 40, which is like the same Celsius or Fahrenheit. It was just stupid. We shouldn't have been fishing. And that situation, we hadn't kept the batteries warm. We kept them on the back of the snowmobile with the battery in the auger, and we had issues. We had to warm up the battery. Same thing, another backcountry trip I went on. It was same, wicked cold. And I just think about those days where in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have even been ice fishing. Those are the days where the batteries had issues. I'm sure there's days in between there, and I'm not going to act like I'm sure I've had other issues too, but it's like, if you just don't leave your battery on your, like I often will just have one in my bibs if I'm snowmobiling out or something, which maybe people think that's uncomfortable, but you drop in your bibs when you're getting ready and walking out there, and then you just pop it on your auger and you can pop it off when you need to. But yeah, a lot of those times where it's wicked cold anyways, I'm only popping a couple holes and then I'm often pulling the battery off anyways, but it's just a matter of keeping the battery warm. The Ion auger battery bags, you can easily put a hand warmer in there. I know my buddy Tony talks about doing that. I've never done the hand warmer thing, and I can only think of a couple times and keep in mind, I am a little more of a fair weather fisherman, because just nothing likes that. Like same thing with my camera batteries too. It's just a matter of nothing likes that cold, and you probably shouldn't be fishing if it's that cold anyways. But if you are going to be fishing, I mean, if I own an Ion, you got to own multiple batteries. I would say, everybody should own 2 batteries. I think 3 is kind of the sweet spot. Then you can kind of cycle them. But even with 2 batteries, just keep one warm the whole time. Keep it in your bibs, or have it on the dash of your truck so it's as warm as possible by the time you get to the lake, and then it's not going to cool off instantly. But I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I really don't, other than I don't worry about it because I don't fish in extreme cold unless I take trips.
Yeah.
And in which case, then I do what you're talking. When I am upper Red Lake and north up into Canada, yeah, I keep it. A lot of times we're on a machine, right? We're in a Ranger or we're in some sort of enclosed cab situation, or we have a fish house and a shelter. And then you just kind of try to keep it warm, but I don't baby it. So I just, like I said, the only issue that I ever had with it was 2 different batteries, and those batteries were bad right out of the gate. So
yeah, I think that's another thing to keep in mind is there's bad batteries out there, and to just think it's something more serious, it's like, no, I mean, anytime I've had a battery issue, if you deal with customer service, it's like you swap out the battery, and I'm talking beyond augers. It's just like,
yeah,
the battery often is the very obvious fix and the first thing you should look at. And yeah, it's just a matter.
I work with Markham flashers and have for a long time. And all of the customer service guys I've ever dealt with at Markham, the first thing they say is that 90% of all issues with electronics are battery related. And so, like, yeah, it's just, they don't even think about, it's like they go straight to the battery very first thing.
Yeah.
I don't care what your issue is. We're going to talk battery first and then see about the rest, right? So, all right. Is Taro your favorite net man? That's a great question. And did you snap when you blew up his life vest?
Did I remember that? Oh, I didn't snap. Well, a part that didn't really make the video. I don't know if I don't have it sitting beside me. It's behind me. But yeah, so just for some context in that scene, Taro had a nice, like my most expensive Daiwa rod and reel setup, and he goes to cast, and he had the leader reeled into the tip, and he like stutter steps and then like still casts and launches the whole bait caster setup into the lake. And in that split second, he's like, okay, do I let the combo sink? We try to snag it, or do I go and grab it right now and save the rod and reel? And Taro, within 2 seconds, just launches himself over the front of the boat wearing a microphone, right? So it's just like $1,000 rod and reel, but he's wearing like a $300 microphone. He just made the decision very quickly to jump over the front of the boat. It was hilarious. It was one of my favorite clips in the video. We get him into the side of the boat, and he's trying to get in feet first. And the clip is just hilarious if you guys have. But Taro's trying to get into the boat feet first, which is like, that's not how you do it. So anyways, we just like, I hold on to him, and we're just like crying and laughing in each other's faces, right? And then finally, I'm like, okay, Taro, he had a manual inflation life jacket on. So I just pull the tab as a joke, and it just pops in his face. And we get him in the boat, and he pulls the microphone out. His pocket's just full of water, right?
Oh.
And so the microphone's wrecked. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. It is what it is. That was to be expected. So we unplug the microphone, plug a new microphone on. I'm like, hey, Taro, you're good to go. He takes the microphone and he puts it right back in the pocket that is full of water, and he hasn't drained it yet. At that point, I don't know if I would say snapped, but I was just like, Taro, what are you doing? Drain your pocket. So anyways, and I think the second mic might still work. I think I put it in some rice, but it was just one of those moments where it's like, okay, I'm okay with wrecking one microphone. You wreck 2 microphones, and it's like, okay, we're getting close to the price of the rod. Maybe we should have just like tried to fish the rod out. But man, that's Taro for you. So anyways, yeah. I don't hold any grudges on that, and you can always buy more audio gear. So, but that second microphone, that one bothered me. It's like, yeah. Your pocket.
Kelly Hendrickson says, hello, Hero Fishing, showing up in the comments. Thanks for the recommendation, the Ion Ice Augers. They work all the time for us. That's great. Anthony Kleinwatcher had another great comment. Even if it's not that cold, make sure to bring it in overnight. They'll hold residual heat longer. That is true. That thing is like a brick. And when it gets cold, it stays cold. And when it gets warm, it stays warm. Right?
Well, I mean, it's the same thing. I've heard of people talking about flying their drones, and they will, on cold days, they will tape hand warmers onto their drone battery so the battery doesn't get cold when they're flying. I mean, not that you want to tape a hand warmer onto your auger battery, but like those days where I was talking about the auger batteries not working on those -40 days, you got to think, if you keep that battery on your auger when you're driving, it's like wind chill. So even if it's -30 Celsius and the wind chill's -40, you're just exactly what Anthony's saying. You're getting it exponentially colder when you're driving into the wind and going on an hour-long snowmobile ride with it. So like, just take it off I think taking it off your auger too is just like, it's less weight bouncing around on your auger carrier too. So why wouldn't you want to take the battery off anyways, right? So
makes a ton of sense. Yep, absolutely. A lot of people chiming in here. Ryan Repke says, hello, Joel and Jay. Good to see you guys on the episode. Love it. David Allen, really great comment. Thanks. Still rocking the original Ion.
nice.
I remember those. They've been
never
around
tried the original.
Yeah. Only fishing 48 inches ice. We first get 20 inches ice here in the Adirondacks. And he's had the unit for 10 years. So glad you've had good success with it over those years. And Matt Halverson chimes in. Best dish that Josh has cooked for you on the ice. I like the direction of this one.
That's a good question. Man, I remember earlier in my friendship with Josh, and he gets me eating some weird stuff. And I don't know if this is the best, but this is definitely one of the more memorable ones. But it was cow tongue. It was a cow tongue sandwich.
Oh wow.
And I was like, there's no way this is going to be good. And just Josh can make anything good. And it was unbelievable. I don't know if that was like the best meal I've had. I'm thinking he made some brook trout eggs Benny on the ice. That was top shelf. That was good. That was that one ended up in a meat eater video. But like I love eggs Benny. So brook trout eggs Benny, it was so good.
Top notch. Does Josh have a commercial cooking background? Enthusiast? Kind of what's his claim to fame on the cooking side of things? I know he's an incredible chef, and I've seen so many things he's done.
Yeah, I mean, Josh is self-taught. I think he might have worked in some kitchens and done a little bit of catering type stuff, but like Josh is kind of self-taught in everything. Like he's done some woodworking. He had a business doing that for a while, and then he's done marketing on the side, and then all sorts of foodie cooking stuff. And right now it's like he just does a bit of everything. That's Josh, right? And he's not afraid to experiment. He just like understands the rules. And when you understand the rules, you can break them, right? And it's just like he knows this and this and this is going to go together. And so it's like anything, it's experience, right? I'm sure he's cooked bad dishes before. I haven't had a bad dish. Like I'm trying to think when we went down to Texas and did some fishing and hog hunting. Yeah. They're like, we don't always eat the pigs down here. And Josh's like, well, I'm going to give it a shot. And he slow roasted one and did like a pulled pork type thing. And everyone's like, whoa, this is amazing, right? And it's just Josh has done popcorn catfish out of Lake Winnipeg. Like people don't eat the catfish out of the Red River or Lake Winnipeg. They just in their minds are like, I don't do that. Yeah. But Josh is like, no, why not? People eat catfish all over, the southern United States. So he did popcorn catfish on Lake Winnipeg. And so it's knowing how to clean some of these fish and animals and stuff. It's like trimming the fat and knowing, how when you cook a bear, I talk to people and they're like, I don't like eating bear. And it's like, they had one bad experience and they just write it off. Like, I'm not going to eat bear meat. Or I don't like eating. I remember we're on the Rainy River for a shoot and everybody says, if you catch and keep a sturgeon, you got to smoke it. You got to smoke it. That's the only way. Otherwise they're going to taste awful. Right. And we catch this sturgeon and harvest it. It's our one sturgeon sort of thing. And Josh is like, yeah, I don't want to smoke it. We're going to pan fry it. And just, he knows how to pan fry meat. He knows how to deal with it and knows how to cut the fatty red meat off. And it was amazing. But that comes from experience. Right. And it comes from being open-minded about all that stuff. And that's Josh's forte. So,
well, and I could just tell I've only met him once in person, but encyclopedic type memory is what you have to do to keep all that in your head at one time. To be that kind of Renaissance man, you need a pretty good database up there to call.
We need to get into a cookbook yet. Catch and Cook needs to come out with a cookbook. That's what we've been brainstorming for a while. And I'm like, we need to get some of Josh's ideas on paper. So
tell me some Catch and Cook stories, because I tell you what, that product has been electric. It has really been good. I love the crunchy, like my kids. Well, first off, they're like, Jay Siemens sent you Catch and Cook. I'm like, stop. It's not, no, Jay Siemens. Well, okay, I guess he kind of did. And so they were excited to try it. They're big fans of you, and the stuff that you do is epic, right? It's inspiring, especially to young anglers, right? They're like, this is cool. And tying in the fact that we eat the fish that we catch. And we were talking about the Josh side of things. Yeah. I think that's important. So Catch and Cook is a really cool concept from my perspective. And we have some friends that are gluten-free, and I know that's coming out or has come out. And it's more than just fish mix. So just give me a a quick 40,000 foot view on Catch and Cook and how it's been.
Yeah, Josh and I were sitting in an ice shack in Manitoba and just brainstorming what we like to do and how we like the content creation and the marketing side of things, and also just the, you know, I was a fishing guide. I cooked a lot of shore lunches over the years, and I still you know, eat a lot of fish, obviously. And Josh is just so creative, and it was just sitting in an ice shack talking about this, and I'm just like, Josh, you must have like some secret coating recipe, right? He's like, well, I got this family recipe, right? I'm like, well, like, I want to try it, right? So that family recipe is what turned into the original. But I remember we're sitting in the shack and we're like, we should try doing this. We should turn this into something. And funny enough, probably not too far from you guys, but we started making Catch and Cook at a place in Cook, Minnesota.
Okay.
A place called Homestead Mills, and it was this mill, and basically it's called a co-packer, and basically you send them the recipe and they'll put the product together, because it's like, people don't want me packaging all this stuff in my kitchen. Like, my kitchen's clean, but it's not like a health and safety FDA approved kitchen, right?
Right.
They've got these kitchens or these whatever mills, and we tell them what we want and what the recipe is, and so that's kind of how the whole thing started. Is we got connected with this mill. They were able to create it at a velocity we couldn't, and it was just this dumb little passion project. And we're like, hey, it's fun. We like to eat fish, and the funny part is, you know, Catch and Cook has been a popular term on YouTube for videos. It's a Catch and Cook video, right?
Yep.
And then we start doing some searching. It's like, how is there not a company called Catch and Cook? It doesn't make sense, right? We start looking more. And it's like, how is this not trademarked? How is there nothing like this, right? So, you know, we have a trademark now, and we started the company, and I had no experience in that food world and in the selling of it and all that. So, long story short, I mean, it's been 4 years later, and I think now we're across Canada and slowly getting into the States. The Midwest has kind of been our focus for the last couple months. It's been a wild ride, and just the support. People, like, I tell people, I'm like, I don't sell J Siemens t-shirts on my website or anything like that's. If someone wants to support the channel, the easiest way to support the videos is to go buy some Catch and Cook, because it's myself and Josh until recently that run the show there. Like, it's not like there's a long list of people that help us. It's like, when somebody emails Catch and Cook, it was me or Josh responding. If there was an invoice getting sent out to a store, it was me or Josh doing it. So that was a whole rabbit hole, and a thing that consumed, a lot of our extra time, right? Just learning how to do all that. So fast forward to just a couple of weeks ago, and Josh and I are like, this has gotten a little bigger than we planned. And I'm like, well, what's the next step? So we convinced a friend of ours, Peter Tully, who's worked in the fishing industry for many years for a large fishing store. We said, hey, like, do you want to come be the chief Catch Cook officer? We call him. He's the Catch Cook officer. So his name's Peter Tully. And that last name might sound familiar because there's been Tullys in a lot of the uncut and my videos over the years. So Peter Tully is the oldest of the Tully brothers. Yeah. So Josh and Mark, they're a team together, Team Catch and Cook in the Outpost, right? But Peter Tully's the older brother. So Peter's got a long resume of all sorts of fishing gigs. He actually was my boss at the first fishing lodge I worked at. He was the head guide when I was 15-year-old rookie Jay. And so it's great that now it's come full circle, and now Peter's, steering the ship at Catch and Cook. And now it's like Josh and I get to focus on, what the new recipe is, what the new flavors and products and all that stuff. And Peter's helping with a lot of the day-to-day stuff. So we hope that Catch and Cook shows up in a lot more of your nearest tackle stores and locations where you guys are at. Cause it's been a fun passion project, and it gets people excited about eating fish, because I think it's as important as ever. It's like, harvest is a part of the reason why we fish. Yeah. And it's, we're not going to stop that. Right. And everybody loves a good fish fry. There's nobody that loves a good fish fry more than my Midwestern friends. So it's, we need to keep you guys well fed.
Yeah. Never an issue. I grew up in Minnesota. Obviously, fish fries were a big part of our culture. But then I went to Wisconsin, and I was even more blown away, because up in Wisconsin, I went to school in Ashland, and they just fried straight fish, and it was fish in Leinenkugels, man. There wasn't a potato to be found. Really? There was no rice pilaf. There's no vegetables. We're eating fish and we're drinking beer. And like that was the Wisconsin way. So it took a lot more fish for those kinds of fish.
Yeah. Right? That's funny.
Andy Pedersen said spicy is my favorite. So nice. Good. I love the spicy
fan.
But I like to mix spicy with crunchy. I start to go food labs in my own kitchen with that deal. And that's a lot of fun. And as another side, wild turkey, if you cut them into chunks and brine it and then put it in that spicy and crunchy, nothing short of amazing.
Nice.
I don't know any way to make wild turkey disappear faster. So
that's amazing. I love hearing what people do with it, right? There might be vegans out there that use it for coating their mushrooms and deep frying asparagus and all sorts of crazy stuff, right? Yeah. And then it's like I'm pretty basic. A lot of mine is just deep frying walleye and pike and crappies and whatever. Sure. But then you get people doing all sorts of wild stuff, and it's like, cool. I didn't even know. Like we've got this friend Casey on the West Coast, and he's doing bluefin tuna and all sorts of just wild stuff and incorporating catch and cook into it all the time. And it's like, man, you're inspiring me, right? So I'm always inspired by the stuff I see. I get tagged and stuff on Instagram. I'm like, man, I wish I was a better cook.
We got Chad Shepard chiming in. I keep telling YouTuber Jay Laguerre the yellow knife he needs to upgrade from drill and pistol grip. Have to get him an eye on. Let's make it happen. But that brings up a good point. Is a drill and pistol bit is like a drill adaptable kind of auger? Is that a Canadian solution? Or does it just does the ice get too thick too quick for you guys to run those? What do you guys do?
Well, no, it's funny. In a recent video, I was using the pistol bit 2.0.
Yeah.
And using the new 10-inch version. Someone's like, Jay, you're such a traitor. I thought you were an ion guy. And it's like, okay, well, I still use my ion. I mean, it was just like how dare you say that? But I'm like, well, the parent company is Artisan, which not everybody knows, right? But that is a part of it too. It's just like depending on the situation, I think it depends how much ice you get. Like I'm using a pistol bit early ice when I'm trying to stay right on gear and I'm walking out. I have a pistol bit, and I'm fortunate that I have all the toys, right? If you have just one auger and you get to late season and you're in Yellowknife, your pistol bit might not be good. If you want to have two augers and you've got a good cordless drill, right? Well, then have a pistol bit and have an alpha, right? If you need to do one to do everything, well, you buy the alpha and you're not going to need another auger. Right. But for me, when it's early ice and I'm going out for panfish, well, I'm just going to take the pistol bit in my Milwaukee and I'm going to be good. But it's
well, that's what we do too. And it's a way to extend, a cheaper way to extend drilling options. We fish out of a lot of 6-inch holes in Mississippi River backwaters, perch and panfish. And it's just a better mousetrap for that specific application. And I've got my eye on 8 and 10-inch options. But if you wanted a quick, cheap, easy way, and you already own the cordless drill, build a deck, drill a hole, right? You can do both pretty simply.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't have a lot more questions to roll through. Jay, is there anything else you'd want to chat about? Things you got coming up, things that we should be looking out for on your channel? You said the Outpost is coming out, right? That's season 4?
That'll be season 3, but that'll be, it's only getting filmed now. So it probably won't come out till next winter. So not to get too excited, but the competitions always take so much editing that you need a few months to get them done. I think the first 2 seasons of the Outpost were probably 1,000 hours of editing between the 2 of them. So I don't know. I think this winter is going to be a little bit different for me, just because I'm going to be staying close to home for a lot of it. And where I live around Kenora, Sunset Country, you look at it on a map and there's kind of like, in the Midwest there's just a splattering of lakes. And same thing, there's a lot of backcountry lakes that need to be explored. And I've kind of been working on getting my snowmobile dialed in, accessorizing it a little more, and just getting it set up to be, that I don't need to bring a shack and everything, that I can stay nimble and go check out some of these backcountry lakes. And that's what I love. I could go fish a new lake every day, even if it involves getting skunked. And that's where a lot of my passion lies. And there's a lot of lakes that I need to check off the list yet. So
I see Weebs is alive and well, and fishing looks a little bit more regularly. Are you going to hit the ice with Aaron at all? Possibly. Probably.
Yeah. It's I don't really, Aaron isn't one to schedule things far in advance. So it might be the type of thing where it might be, a couple days notice and all of a sudden we're going fishing. But he's competing in this fish donkey tournament right now, the 7 species slam.
Yeah.
And I think it wraps up Sunday, but I've been talking to my buddy Alex Perrick, and he's got a pretty strong lineup of fish yet. So he's gone chasing a big pike, and it's funny. Like I'd love to be part of it. But it's also fun just watching and cheering on my friends and just seeing what they all catch, right? And I know there's some guys in the Midwest too going at it, and I don't know. I love the friendly competition. It's not huge stakes by any means, but it's
the text strings between you guys in competition mode must be epic. I bet there's some just banger comments that come through. And
man, yeah, it kind of gets out of hand because it's like some of our competition chat threads. It's like you need what our start and stop times are and any specific rules. And then all of a sudden, tarot or somebody goes on a tangent. And it's like you're 100 messages deep trying to find this one text that has the rules in it. So we've strategically in the past with like 39 hours and stuff, we've strategically been like, hey, this thread, you can joke around. This thread is only check-ins of your fish and rules. Anything else is not going in this thread because it just completely gets out of hand. So
Nicole Key said, shout out to husband Jeff, father-in-law Walt, loving their ions. And that's great to see. And then Hero Fishing, any more competitions with Clayton?
Nothing on the books right now, but who knows? Clayton's been fishing a ton. He's been cranking out the videos. That guy, he's a machine. So
yeah, we had him on, and he looked to be halfway between one fishing destination and the next. I think he just kind of scrolled through the screen as we did the Ion Live, and then he was out the door to the next spot. The guy's been moving.
Yeah, he fishes as much as anybody I know. That guy's on the ice a ton.
Nothing like time on the water to sharpen your skills, get you in the right frame of mind, and really tune you up. But Jay, it's almost silly to ask where we can find you because you're just about everywhere. But where do you send people to that kind of want to get the Jay Siemens experience? Is it your YouTube channel?
Yeah, YouTube's where the focus is. I know Instagram, there's stuff on there too, but it's kind of a byproduct of what's going on YouTube. YouTube is where if you've got an hour to spare and you want to turn on a show, then there's probably a film or a competition video that you can watch. So it's where I find my passion of filmmaking and fishing coming together. And I'm just always trying to find a way to keep it fresh and to make, like I said, make the videos that I would want to watch. And the beauty of YouTube is there's no rules, there's no upload time, it doesn't cost to upload. So as goofy as it sounds, like my last video was that I posted a couple days ago was catching Arctic char in Alaska. I know it's probably the craziest fishing trip I've ever been on. And then today I was out tip-up fishing for pike and trying to catch pike on hot dogs. So it's just like that's the contrast of what I do. And I love that there's no rules. And I will tell you that pike love hot dogs. I've got probably 8 unbelievable underwater hot dog strikes with pike right now.
Roach was just telling me a story about a North Dakotan family that didn't know you could use anything but hot dogs to catch pike.
They're the perfect profile.
Fun dogs, it's a thing. Use it for bait and grill them up for pike arm biting, I guess.
There you go.
Well, it's been an honor and a pleasure, Jay. Ton of respect for what you do. And to your point earlier about not every film can be a Yeti Films style expedition. We understand, but at the same time, those are super inspirational. In our house, those epic, big, tons of drone shots, gorgeous cinematography, what you do, it really has set you apart and has made you into, in my opinion, the icon you are in the fishing industry. So thank you from all the rest of us for providing that, because it's a hell of a lot of fun to live vicariously through you.
I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and if people keep watching the videos, then I'll keep making them, because every time I upload, I'm like, maybe this is the last time people watch them, and but so far, knock on wood, people are still watching the videos, so I'll keep making them.
I hear constantly in my house, I want to fish where Jay fishes. And I caution them. They've been on film trips. They know the deal. Not all of them are great. And then you'd get a 15-minute flurry that feels like it was catching them all day, right? Like it's just, that's the way it works. But Ott Bowers that closes says, thanks for all your videos, Jay. We appreciate it. I'll echo those comments. So for all the rest of you guys that asked all the questions, thanks so much for your participation. Really appreciate it. This has been Ion Live with Jay. And tell you what, we'll have to get together and do this again, eh, buddy?
Absolutely. On the ice next time.
All right. You got it. Thanks all. Take care.
Cheers. Have a good night.